So God's asking me to, in my own words, describe my personal experience and my description of how I hear from God, like how I talk to God, and how I do talk to God, but I mostly hear from God, and how I communicate with Jesus. Because for me personally, it's two different ways. Like I talk to both of them, but like I get my prophetic messages, my words, from God. But usually, sometimes God and I will have a conversation, but most times God just tells me things and I just stop dead in my tracks and listen. Like he'll literally like stop my breath for a moment. Like obviously not towards anything emergency or anything, but he'll just like, I'm in awe. Like I'm like, it's almost like a starstruck feeling in a way where you're just like so focused. But of course it's greater than that, right? He's so glorious to me. Like to me, he comes in this like strong, heavy presence, and it's so powerful and glorious. I just stop what I'm doing. I listen, I'm attentive, I focus, and I'm like, just, it's hard to explain. It's like in a supernatural way. Whereas with Jesus, it's more, I give Jesus his reverence. He is definitely like, it's like he's the king of all humankind because of him being a human example. It's like he's a step above, but even he bows to the Father, to God, right? You would have to. God is just too all powerful and too glorious that you would have to bow to him. Even Jesus does. But with Jesus, it's like more of a like on a human level, so to speak. Obviously Jesus is greater than mere human, but that's what it's like. It's like a friend. Like I get a warm feeling when I talk with Jesus, and an understanding, and he tells me things that I can understand. Whereas with God, when he speaks to me, it's just very powerful, and he doesn't converse with me one-on-one in the way that Jesus does. It's not like a conversation per se. He'll just like tell me things and I just listen, and I can respond if I want, and he may or may not answer, but it's so powerful, right? Whereas with Jesus, he can kind of more understand me on my human level, and I can understand him. We can actually discuss things. So, and Jesus is kind of like an example to me of like, you know, he can relate to me and I can relate to him because we both had have had and are having a human experience, right? He's had a human experience, and I'm currently having a human experience. So he teaches me things through the human perspective. And so I can emulate him as a way to be a better human, right? To talk like him, to think like him, to have a heart like him, things like that. Whereas with God, he's just way too powerful that I could never try to even step to that, right? So he uses Jesus as a vessel for me, like a go-between between him and me, as a in-between, because he has one foot towards me as a human and one foot towards the Lord because of his reverence, right? So it's hard to explain, but for me, that's kind of how I feel. So I have a 3-stranded cord is not easily broken, and I take that as myself as one part, and then Jesus as another, and God as the other, right? That's the 3-stranded cord, and it's not easily broken, because if you have a relationship or I don't know what the word would be, but like a understanding, I guess, a partnership with both of them, and it's the three of you together, then now you're set. You have it on all sides. So if you have a relationship with Jesus, you can speak to him on a human level, a human understanding interaction. But with God, it's with all powerful. He's like basically instructing you, right? So I hope that gives a little bit of perspective to anyone who may be wondering. And the more that you get closer to the Father, like to Jesus and to the Father, it goes hand in hand. So if you're close with Jesus, you're usually close with God. And if you're close with God, you're usually close with Jesus. They kind of go hand in hand together. So through prayer and praying to both Jesus and God, and through reading the word that God created, and Jesus is in the word in the Bible, through reading the word, you get closer as well, and it just continues to build up that relationship. And then eventually you will start to hear from either Jesus or God or both. And yeah, hopefully this can help someone that may come across it as to how you're communicating, and if you think you're hearing from Jesus or from God or both.